It's a very common last name in the South Island
Is it?
in terms of like historic last names. I don't know if it's that.
How do you come up with that last name?
Same way you come up with Shoemaker.
Well,
Oh, what's your name? Michael Shoemaker. Oh, I know what your ancestors did. What's
make
your name?
shoes.
Gary Cockburn.
What do your ancestors do, eh? That's
how last names came about, isn't it?
Oh my gosh.
well, that's
Nick,
what
you're a history teacher.
Smith is blacksmith.
Okay, you want to know how Te Rewera National Park, you know, the mountain ranges, the forests, Tuhoi, yeah, east coast of the North Island. So, okay, anyway.
I don't know where you go
Wait,
with this.
sorry.
The point is that name comes from a story about a chief in that area who, on the eve of battle, was rejected by his wife, you know, and because she was like, no, that's not what you're allowed to do the night before battle. You know, you're supposed to.
Oh, that's sort of rejected.
Yep. And that kind of rejected. And so he was a bit like, you know, he was pouting. And so he kind of like pulls his cloak like this and rolls over and got too close to the fire and burnt his genitals. So that's actually where I'm not kidding. That's where the name comes from.
What?
What name?
Te Rewera.
Oh.
What does Te Rewera mean?
Oh, it has, I can't tell you the literal translation, but it has to do with that.
Like Cockburn.
Burnt genitals.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So it's because of that. That's the story behind it. Someone's going to fact check this. I know that. And they're going to be like, you're wrong. But no, it is true. I read it on the Department of Conservation sign when I was going through that national park.
You got a one that all the signs that guy made for all the different parks around the country. That's his favorite one. I guarantee.
It beats the one in Dunedin about Cockburn.
Okay,
we start now?
Cockburn.
No,
What is Tom ahead of me?
No, we're not.
That was in, mate. That was in.
I'm exercising veto on this.
Kingy mean something?
Yeah, no, Kingy comes from a king.
Well,
Kingy comes from a king.
Edu Kappa King is your hero.
Is my hero.
But Kingy is a kind of like a transliteral version of king in
king,
English.
right? Like
Yeah.
king.
So like a kingy tongue movement, you know?
What a linguist you are
Okay.
to know that.
Teaching.
Ari.
I
I believe
mean-
you didn't know that.
No, I did. I'm terrible.
I like your T-shirt, by the way. Good intentions.
Thank
shirt.
you. Good intentions. You know what the path to hell is paved with?
Good intentions.
Good intentions.
Wow.
And that's exactly what the before 16 women are doing. Yeah, I just wanted to put it out there.
Wow.
They've got lots of good intentions.
straight
But
into the-
no, we don't have to
straight
get
into
into
this.
it. But
No,
I
no,
just
no.
want everyone to know that their good intentions are going to lead to hell, and they don't know it because I think they're just being blind.
You've
Wow.
really come out swinging,
Wow.
eh? You've come out.
They haven't
Wow.
thought about it. But anyway,
I
we
mean,
can
you
come back to
express
it.
yourself. That's
No,
good.
last
You do
week,
you.
Nick, I think last week we didn't give Aaron enough.
No,
he
well,
didn't
no,
get
no,
anything
not
off
at
his
all.
chest.
This
So I
is-
think we
this
should
is-
let
this
him-
is why.
Okay, let's
So
tighten up. Hey, everyone.
Let's
let's
okay.
relax.
Ready?
Let's
Ready?
From
No,
Okay.
we're not cutting. This is all in. This is all in.
Okay,
guys.
so what is your concern or your point
What
of
do you hate before
what's your
16?
point of difference with what they're
Before
saying and what
16?
I guess we're trying to argue?
No, I was being facetious, but there is an element of empathy that has no grounds in any first principles or truth, particularly when it comes to banning everyone from social media, especially banning under 16s from social media. The issue there is that it's a great intention. There are issues with social media. No one disagrees with that, and the good intention is we're going to ban under 16s from social media. What the flip side of that is everyone and anyone who wants to sign up and use these platforms has to show some sort of ID. We're just getting back into our normal lines. And there's huge restrictions, huge privacy concerns there, and surveillance concerns. That's just discounted and not thought about. And
But you've got no problem with, say, parents at home saying, no, you can't.
no,
use
there's nothing wrong
social
with it.
media
Yeah,
until
no,
you're
no,
16.
yeah, sure.
Okay. So
Yeah.
it's not actually a ban, it's a government ban.
Yeah,
that you have an issue with.
it's a state enforced
Okay.
ban on social media. for those
So
under
let
16.
families decide that.
Yeah.
Let parents
not?
decide that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's not the ban itself.
But guys, not every parent's going to do it. So what are we going to do? We need to tell all these parents who aren't capable,
Who
aren't
don't know how to
confident.
be parents.
Me
Okay.
and Arian heard a lady the other night. She spoke up at a meeting. She said, "Look, this is my son right here. She's a 9-year-old next to her. She said, I can't keep him off social media. I need the government to do it for me." I almost asked supplementary, and I was going to ask if the government was also dropping him home following the meeting. I didn't feel like the tension in the room gave me that space, which is a robbery for everyone because it would have been a great joke. But
I think we all understand the feeling that might come, sort of with a comment like that, right? But at the same time, it's like, well, listen, you're going to be a parent. You're going to have to learn that there are like non-negotiable lines, right? There are lines you don't cross. You don't allow your kid to cross, or you have to hold that line.
It's funny though.
So,
Do you know what is really hilarious to me? That we expect government and big tech, and it's the same. Like there's a number of examples in society, but like we hold government and big tech to these standards that we refuse to hold individuals to. You know how much easier it is to convince an individual than the government or big tech
Sure.
to meet an objective standard of what is appropriate.
I think, I agree. And I think that that's a big problem. I think also that we like to not be the bad guy. We would rather make
Outsource it.
We would rather make like that big nameless, faceless kind of government, entity responsible instead. Because it's like, well, I didn't make the rule.
Sorry,
the government
Arian.
did.
Mark
right?
Zuckerberg said no. Mark Zuckerberg is the one who says you're not allowed on.
He knows
And I
best.
mean, look at the guy.
Hey,
so,
He is quite cool.
That's my jujitsu brother right there.
okay.
Okay. One day I'll roll with Mark.
Put $1 million on the line. Say, if you beat me, I'll give you $1 million.
I've got like 100 kilos on him, so I think
Yeah,
I'll be all right.
yeah.
I'll be fine.
If you can get near him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do think that there's a lot of outsourcing going on. A lot of parents going, I just can't do this. It's too hard. And I would rather blame big tech and government.
Do you know, and I do want to also sympathize a little bit with these parents. This is uncharted
You
territory.
do. Oh, well, I do as well.
It's uncharted territory. No, you do. Because I think what you've outlined is absolutely right, but it's not without cause, right? This is uncharted territory. A lot of parents actually didn't grow up in a social media age or in the digital age. And there's nothing in history that precedes this really like it. It's been so widespread, so invasive, and has had such an effect on children. We know that from studies, right? So I can understand why they're feeling a bit helpless. But I do also think
Think about it twice.
Step back.
Yeah.
Have a think about it. You do have a little bit more. Well, you got a lot more authority than you give yourself credit for. Got a lot more control. You've got other resources available to you than the state. Can I ask you a question? And you might have a different perspective on this. And Arian, I'd be interested to hear your perspective as well because you grew up in the digital space.
I'm a
Even
young
more
man.
so, you know.
Yeah.
How old were you? Well, I'll ask you first. How old were you when you got on social media? Do you remember?
12, I think.
What did you have first? At Facebook or something?
Instagram.
Oh, Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram was when I first. Yeah. Without parental supervision per se. Like I just told my mom after I got it, I was like, I have Instagram.
Do you have any photos still up from when you were 12?
I can find them. I can go back into my archives. It was just football stuff.
Oh, football.
Yeah, it was all
you
just
probably
football.
had like 40 photos of Ronaldo.
Yeah. No, literally, I used to post every day. There was so many photos there. I enjoyed it.
It's funny because I remember doing the same thing with Facebook and Bebo when I was a similar age.
Bebo.
And when you're a kid, I don't know, back then, and I'm not denying or I'm not saying that things are exactly the same now.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
things have changed. But I was just posting like random screenshots of LeBron James.
Yeah,
Like,
legit. Yeah.
The Boston Celtics. That was like my team that I adopted because I was like, Boston Celtics, you know?
Yeah.
But Nick, this is what I'd be interested to hear from you about. You've got children who are a bit older than mine. You've also got 2 girls. I've got 3 boys. I do think there is a difference in some of the feeling and sentiment between girl dad, boy dads, for example. And I think just the way that sometimes parenting girls and parenting boys comes across differently. Or how do you feel about this whole push? Obviously, you are an amazing father. You got control of your house. You know, you wear the pants. And let that be known to every single person in East Auckland that Nick Hahn wears
I'm
the
wearing
pants at his house when Tracy allows. But Tracy paid me to say that. But how do you feel that difference comes across? And how do you feel like, as a girl dad, you know, that's the... Have you heard that term? Cultural term? Girl dad?
Girl dad.
Have you heard that?
Of course.
Yeah.
Every day of
as
my
a girl
life.
dad, how do you feel about it? Because I actually think that girls are highly susceptible to online harm and risk. How do you feel about it all?
Well, I think, first of all, the stats show that. So it's not just my subjective experience as a dad. Girls are definitely more emotionally attuned to things that are going on around them. Boys, and again, this is obviously generalization, there'll be exceptions, but boys typically are focused on what's right in front of them. They're not always thinking about the emotional atmosphere and the relationships that are going on around them. And I mean, that's the biggest adjustment when you're a guy and you're trying to parent, daughters. I didn't grow up with sisters. I grew up with a brother, and we were pretty rough and ready. And we weren't emotionally shut off. That may change, of course, as you get into your teenage years and you become a little bit more aware of relationships and emotional dynamics. But I would say that for me, my great concern is, of course, the social contagions. The sort of the vibe that goes with certain online spaces. However it sort of began when it comes to certain social contagions. Some of them started in different online spaces 10, 15 years ago. And I think maybe even longer than that, to watch the influence that it's had on girls. I mean, I was a teacher as well, you got to remember.
Wow.
So working in high schools and also working with young people before I got into teaching, as a youth worker, I was very aware of the pressure that girls felt they were under in terms of image, in terms of maintaining these social connections online all the time with people that they're not physically, in the same space with. So that adds a dynamic to it as well, because you can't always just kind of tell someone, cut it out, when it's just text, for instance, or if it's just stuff that doesn't involve people in the same room, you lose a whole dimension to that relationship. So I get it. And I think, especially for girls, this is a major problem. I think, the evidence shows that it is, right?
Yeah.
I've seen it in terms of my career as a teacher, and I've seen it as a dad.
I think that's the big emphasis that we've tried to communicate. I feel like we've done an effective job at communicating that.
Yeah.
We just haven't necessarily, or maybe it's more representative of how little people listen. We're not denying harms that exist in the online space. We're not advocating for children to be online unsupervised or be on social media below the age of 16. That's not what we're advocating for. But there is such a huge and obvious trade-off when you involve the state in achieving that solution, right?
Well, I think people see the immediate harm, the visible harm of the last decade and a half, and they go, well, we need to deal with that because it's a real problem. It's been happening. Your future, like, what ifs, your future, like, problems that you allege are going to occur if we require everybody to get, digital ID and age verification online, that those things are problems to deal with later if they happen.
Yeah.
Well, the reality is, as we are seeing now in many different parts of the world, that isn't a what if in the future kind of problem. It is actually an emerging problem already. So we have to deal with it. We can't just say, if it comes up, we'll deal with it. It is a real problem. It's happening now.
It's interesting sort of perspective that you take there. And one of the questions that I got at the Workforce and Education Committee was like, well, should we be more concerned about the harms we know or the unintended consequences or the unrealized harms that are out there? And it was I answered that question and I watched back the answer and I probably didn't answer it as well as I would have liked to. But Arian, what do you think? Do we prioritize harms that we know now and ignoring the butterfly effect or the knock-on effect of addressing those with poor solutions? Or do we prioritize?
I watched your submission and I watched other submissions, and they asked that question of, well, we might harm freedom of expression, or we might harm private. There might be privacy concerns, but like, is that really a concern in comparison to the harms that young people face online? And I thought that's actually, I actually think that's just a false dichotomy. I actually don't think that's a fair approach to this. That's one way to present it, but I just don't think that's the case. Like,
is that the only two pathways?
No, it's, you can actually deal with this. And I was just going to say, as you were talking, this conversation that we are having about this campaign of banning under 16s from social media, the actual campaign and the discussions that are happening before that law, and hopefully it doesn't come into effect, but before that law comes into effect, I think this will do a lot more good than the actual law will when or if it comes into power. Because this is exactly what we haven't done for 10 years, 15 years.
The national conversation.
The national conversation has not happened.
Absolutely.
And now we're talking about it, and I 100% believe that this conversation will do far more good than the actual law coming into effect, because it's waking people up.
Do you remember that Netflix documentary? And the name escapes me right now, but it was about social media.
Yeah. A lot of insiders from Facebook and other.
The social something? The social.
It's not the Social Network, because that was the movie.
That was the movie. I can't remember, but it's actually an amazing documentary. And I feel like there was a really
search it up.
there was a cultural awakening there.
Yes, at that
Where's
moment.
our
yeah.
researcher sitting in the studio?
Jamie,
like Joe Rogan
Jamie,
has?
pull it up.
Pull it up,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm Jamie.
But it's interesting because I think you're sort of saying that something similar is happening now, Arian. Because I feel like that cultural awakening was people realize that social media is not the product; we are the product.
Yes.
Like we're not just customers or consumers. Like there's a reason it's free up front because there's a cost incurred further in, right? It's not pay to play immediately, but it comes. You just look it up.
No, I
sorry.
was just
Oh,
I
yeah.
just wanted to look at you
Let's
as you
look at it.
spoke because
Oh, no, sorry,
it's
The social dilemma.
The
Social
social
dilemma.
Yeah,
dilemma.
I thought it was 3 years ago. It's 5 years ago. Well,
Yeah.
a long
5
time
years.
ago.
So it
2020.
was around the time that just before lockdowns, I think.
it was made before lockdowns, and then it came out, and as everyone's sitting there at home 24/7 on their
Crazy.
phones,
Yeah.
it's like playing, and people are like, oh man, what have we done?
And you know what? It would have had more of an impact if they didn't release The Last Dance at the same time.
The last what?
The Last Dance. Michael Jordan.
Oh yeah.
The
Well,
greatest sports
and
documentary
Tiger
of all
and the Tiger King.
Tiger King. I didn't even watch Tiger King.
I mean,
I couldn't get all the
I
way
remember
through.
that. I
Does
never watched
that whole situation not just illustrate the problem here?
Tiger
Like it's
King.
so ironic, that those things ended up eclipsing like social concerns around social media.
I didn't think about that.
Okay, so this is a question then. Where do
No.
we?
No, it's right. You go. I'm just warming up.
Right, so you
We're
do,
all coming out swinging today. I started off on a very aggressive.
so glad to see you've engaged your critical thinking.
So,
So where would we?
Yeah.
Kind of in a philosophical sense, as a team, as a group, with obviously much of much of a sort of a shared ethos on this stuff. Where would we see a government ban coming into effect on online content? What kind of online content? What kind of
great
online
question.
medium would we think needs regulation? I mean, there are some obviously already under some regulation.
Mm.
Do we have a problem with that? Would we say that there are other areas that need it as well that haven't been?
that's a good question. And I hope this is answering a question, but not diverting too much. We're talking about social media and banning youth from social media and having ID checks on social media. I'm like, that feels like a second step when you could do the same thing for pornography websites. Like no one's saying we should have ID checks for people who want to access explicit content. Like we've just skipped that. I'm like,
Well, in the
how
UK
about you
they've done
start there?
In the UK, they've done it. They've introduced it over there.
Has it been effective? I haven't looked
Well,
into it. I don't know.
that's the question, right? It's too early to say.
Right, interesting.
So, and I mean, like online porn accounts for what? How much of the internet traffic that globally?
Yeah.
Oh, huge amount.
The
So,
whole- yeah.
so if it wasn't for that, there would be probably much less online use, right? It's such a massive deal. So they've introduced it in the UK. There are already questions around how exactly they
Effectiveness,
are policing that, and whether those companies that like Pornhub and those those really big ones, whether they have actually attempted to really vigilantly apply the new rules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw recently that at the talk that I went to, which I've referenced this talk 3 times now, so good. Joe Robinson was saying that there used to be a standard practice that when you went onto an adult website, it would pop up with like a blur block thing, and you would confirm your age and confirm that you still wanted it on the website.
By just saying yes, I'm 18,
Just by saying
no ID.
yes. No ID check. But she said that it doesn't even exist anymore on these sites.
Well, I mean, imagine how many like adults don't want to verify who they are when they use those sorts of sites.
Yeah.
Think of all the politicians.
Yeah.
Hey, politicians. Think about all the high serving police officers.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's right. Think of those notable faces that don't want their faces, registered
absolutely.
with these programs or these systems. So
I agree with you. I agree with you, Arian, that this does seem to be like a weird diversion from what's an actual. And to go back to your question, where are we okay with regulation restriction on actually illegal content? Which is why in our submission we outlined a tool that you could introduce, stop NCII, non-consensual
Intimate
image abuse.
images. Yeah.
Where this sort of software exists in a number of platforms. That's just the example that we use. But you could say if someone uploaded a photo of you, you could chuck it into their system, create a digital fingerprint, scan the internet, find it all, take it all down.
Yep.
And it would do that.
Well, because that deals with trafficking, right?
Yeah.
To some degree as well.
Yeah.
Which is a massive element. But I guess again, this is where some of my knowledge runs out. The dark web, in terms of things that are not typically subject to general public scrutiny. They may be investigated by the authorities, but that stuff will continue to happen, won't it?
Absolutely. I was talking to a guy who is really into tech and knows a lot about tech yesterday. And he said exactly this, that they will just move to dark web forums. Kids will move to dark web forums, which are
Which is
super
even
unregulated.
worse. Yeah.
I saw this thing once where a YouTuber, he was talking about videos, super famous YouTuber, and he's like videos that he wanted to make, but he never ended up pursuing because they were just horrible.
Whoa.
And the number one example he had was, join me on the dark web. And he's filming himself and he logs
What
into
the
the dark
heck?
web and he thinks it's going to be so funny. Haha.
Yeah.
Immediately realizes he shouldn't be there. It's like,
Oh.
you can buy human body parts, you can hire hitmen, all these things.
Yeah.
Like
What the
those are
heck?
two of the least intense examples that he.
Oh my
got.
days.
And he's like, yeah, we just scrapped the video.
That's
immediately.
terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is
the hell?
this is the forum that we're pushing.
Well, this is
People
why
do.
like cops that have to investigate online, stuff like
crazy.
that, can't spend that long doing this
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
research
Wow.
and investigation because it's just messes
Evil
with
is so
your mind
real.
so badly.
Yeah. Wow.
It is pure evil. And I mean, I've got a good friend who works in the anti-trafficking space internationally, and is with an organization that are trying to lobby for greater awareness and measures to be introduced to kind of figure out how to deal with this problem, because so much now of the problem is occurring over the internet.
Yeah.
So personally, I have no problem with that being not only monitored,
No, totally.
but also
Yeah.
stopped.
Well, fact check me on this. I think at present there's more humans in some sort of slavery than any other time in history, whether that be in lithium mines, but largely in sex trafficking and sex slavery.
That's right.
So
I
evil.
don't see any weekend marches for them.
Well, no.
Well, do they need a flag? Maybe that's the thing. We need to get a flag designed for victims of trafficking. We might get a couple of protests. But it's just ridiculous that there's all these other things that we're addressing. Yet at this time in modern history in 2025, and we all have to talk about American slavery and how the America was built on the backs of slaves.
Yeah.
It's more slaves at present than any other time in history. Children as well.
Yeah.
Children in slavery.
It's evil.
You don't see anyone crying about
It's
it.
evil.
No.
So-
No, I mean, yeah. And that's such a massive issue. I guess, like where we're at the moment, the government can try and do some of the stuff that the bill proposes, the under 16 bill proposes. But the reality is they've got so many problems already in the form of the dark web. They've already got so many problems in the form of online trafficking.
Yeah.
And they're barely scratching the surface of that problem, and it's increasing. I don't see where the resources will really come from in order to introduce or to properly monitor and enforce a ban like they're talking about.
There's this mindset out there that if you adopt this, it ends very poorly. And that mindset is there's no problem too big for the government. There's no problem too small for the government. That's socialism.
Well,
You're going to end up
if the government can't do it, just increase the size of the government.
increasing the size of the government.
Just
Yeah,
give them more money and more staff and more power.
exactly.
And if you create a big enough threat, if you make the threat look way bigger than it
Sure,
is,
it
then it
justifies
suddenly
itself, right?
justifies. Yeah, and you can see that across political issues. When the threat is so big, and it's like, well, we look, the ends justify the means here. Like we just have to take over your rights just for a short while.
Yeah.
And then bang, communism.
And that's how fast it
Yeah.
And that is how fast that happens.
Thank you, Senator
hope
McCarthy.
But yeah.
Thank you, Senator
I
McCarthy.
don't want to.
I'm looking forward to sending you to the Heritage Foundation and get you over.
No. Heritage.
Mate,
We're still,
so you wrote a list. We didn't touch your list last
No,
time.
that's
I'm really
fine.
sorry.
No,
about
no,
that.
look, guys,
Nick
I'm
and I-
not a victim.
Nick and, that's what I like to hear.
Yeah, I
Nick
am.
and I were just deep in conversation. What's next on your list, mate? Let us know.
We've got lots of things. Can I just, you mentioned third parties, or like, they
third
say,
party secure.
Third party
party
secure.
secure.
Yeah,
Yeah, remember that.
Yeah, third
Yeah.
party secure. They'll look after your data for us. So imagine Instagram. You log onto Instagram, you put in your ID.
Yeah.
They have their own third party that's
Yeah.
got all your data. And then you log into Reddit, and they're like, oh, yeah, and they have their own third party. And then you log into TikTok, and they have their own. And so suddenly there's like 8 different companies, third party companies, that just have all your data.
Yeah.
Well, so it's just everywhere now, and everyone's got it. Like, how's that secure?
Well, to some degree, people would say, like, we've already volunteered that data, right?
Yes.
We've already submitted it to
you
these
don't have to.
companies
Yeah,
in a
you
private,
don't have to.
private
Yeah,
sense.
Keyword
and-
volunteer though.
Yeah, well, sure. But having engaged in that social media kind of contract, so to speak, because it actually is a contract, isn't it? When you sign up with
sign
any
T's and
social
C's,
media,
yeah.
even
Yeah,
if it's a free
Terms and
service.
conditions.
And so having engaged in that contractual kind of relationship with that social media company, they would argue, well, you're already engaged with him. So this is just taking that
An extra.
that next step,
Yeah.
which is ensuring that you are who you say you are, and that your data is used to verify that.
Yeah, 100%. And you sent through an article yesterday or a video yesterday, or you put it up online
About Australia.
and Reddit and things, and it was like no ID, no search. Like you can't use the search engine if you don't have ID.
Well, so what seems to be happening according to this video, and it'll be interesting to see on December 10th how true this is it's going to be mandatory by default. And now what that means is it'll be the default setting set on everyone's browser. You have to opt out. And what he is arguing, this guy, what he's saying is that to even use Google, you'll have to be logged in with a verified account. Otherwise, you won't be able to Google search. You want to use Reddit, you have to be logged in with a verified account. So they're making it the default. And this is what happens, exactly what happens when you hang a $50 million fine over the head of organizations.
Yeah.
They overregulate, they
Very
overplay
safe.
it safe.
Yep.
This is exactly their response, because they don't want to pay $50 million.
No.
So then you remove this anonymity. And also in Australia, and I need to follow this up. Australia is not arguing for a third party or secure system. They're arguing for a government system.
There you go.
So I had missed that
right. Yeah.
sort of caveat.
Yeah, in December 27 or something. That's the system that's going to.
Well, December 10th, it'll come in.
And
So Meta's like, oh, well, we use third party Yoti, and Yoti does all this and that. Discord uses third party despite leaking 70,000 credentials. So really secure and third party. But then I'm pretty sure I saw a commentator talking about this. That Australia's just
There was an article that I read yesterday as well.
Oh, they said it as well?
Yeah.
Maybe that's where I read it.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, Australia is just, the government will do it. The government's got it.
No, yeah. So some of the major news, networks have now started talking about the inclusion of Reddit, and I think there was another. I'm trying to think what the other one was. It wasn't Rumble.
No, it was Kick.
It was Kick. That's right.
Yeah. Streaming service. Yeah.
So they're already beginning to add to the list. The E-Safety Commission in Australia has significant powers.
Yeah.
The E-Safety Commissioner, so Julie Inman Grant,
Yeah.
is very active in her role, and has made a really deliberate effort, obviously, to take on people like Elon Musk, in challenging what.
Do you not think that that's like every Karen's wet dream? Is like they get this position that's big enough. No, seriously, to challenge the world's richest man.
Powerful language you got there. Yeah, that was.
Oh, look.
No.
Because of how many
Please
Karens around the
continue.
world are right now like, I wish that my voice, I could tell Elon what I think about him. She's got that ability because of her unelected position that she holds, right?
Safety. I love the co-option of co-option. Is that a word? I don't know. But
Co-opting.
co-opting of the word safe. It's like, that's for safety. Guys, it's about being safe.
I mean,
Guys.
sorry to
I love
use the
safety.
word, but it's Orwellian, and it's an Orwellian tactic.
There you go.
Right?
Yeah.
It's 1984.
So we've
It's
ticked
Animal
off-
Farm.
Ticked off safety, Orwellian. We just need to get through fascist, Nazi, abhorrent,
Christo fascist.
Borrowed. Yeah.
Christo-fascist, and I think we're the end of it.
No, it is the co-opting of language.
is.
It's taking like these safe, innocuous terms, like literally the word.
I
safe.
love, but safety is a beautiful thing. It's good to be
Of course it is.
safe.
Of course it is, because who's going to argue with safety, right?
Yeah, well,
Well, a lot of rugby playing dads might argue with safety, but
yeah.
I think you're absolutely right.
Well, but I don't understand why people are surprised that the Australians are taking this approach forward when they literally said at the outset, hey, what's social media? Well, whatever we deem to be social media will be social media. How are you defining that? Well, whatever we deem. If it has a chat function, if it has
That's
platforms,
literally
you
what
create
our
a
legislation
profile.
says as well at the moment. Yeah.
And you did that video.
Yeah.
What does it say exactly? Whatever the regulation defines as.
Yes, it says social media is whatever is defined in the regulation as social media. Something to that extent. I can pull it up.
then provides
And
no-
I
Yeah,
think
it's like, thanks, guys.
I think the really obvious point is that this is just another form of how can we take down big tech, or at least how can we get them to heal? Because they won't heal for major political parties or for governments right now, because they are global.
Yeah.
And so because the internet by nature is global, you can't stop a company based in San Francisco or wherever else from doing what they're doing, because people are going to get hold of it somehow through the internet, right?
Yeah.
It's just the nature of the beast. So they're looking at this and saying, well, okay, then let's try a different tactic. And they haven't been able to find a sufficient or satisfactory sort of legal avenue for doing this before.
Yeah.
And this has become, I think, a new vehicle for how they bring big tech to heel.
But this is what you talked about in terms of the bill in New Zealand outlines anything that one or more users can access from New Zealand will be considered within the remit of the bill. And you talk about VPNs, and this is exactly what you're talking about because of the globality or globality, made that word up. Because of the globalness, the global presence, or sort of them not being New Zealand institutions, they're to a degree protected. And then this leads me into the thought that I'm trying to communicate, which is the EU is looking at ways to ban VPNs.
Sure.
Which is crazy.
It's just ridiculous. When you did your submission, I don't know if it was when you did it, just for the Education Workforce Safety Committee, they said, someone said, oh, well, I think you said, or someone said, well, they can just use VPNs. If we put this ban, kids can just use VPNs and pretend they're in the UK, or, well, not the UK. They can pretend.
I want to go into a more sensitive one. It's a VPN that only takes you to the UK.
They'll pretend to be in, who's free nowadays?
Immediately arrested for hate speech the second you turn the computer on.
They'll pretend to be in Congo or something.
Oh,
and then he's like, well, what if other countries have the same law? And I was like, what? So every 195 country in the world is going to have the exact same legislation as us and have... I thought, what a stupid question.
Whoa. That's
strong.
That's the smartest way to think as a global citizen, okay?
Well, we're all going to think the same. Sorry,
You'll think the same, you'll have nothing, and you'll be happy, okay?
It's
cheap. Eat your grasshoppers and shut up.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. You just eat the grass we feed you. But it's just on what Nick was saying about making the tech companies, bow down to us and deal with the issues that we have to deal with. It's cheap politics. I think it's so cheap. It sounds so nice. Like, oh, we're going to deal with them.
Yeah.
And instead of actually dealing with them in nuanced and well thought out policies, it's like, we're going to ban under 16s from social media. And it sounds so nice. And people buy it like, oh, this is such a great idea. And you think about it twice. And it's not such a great idea. But for the politician, it's like such a good selling point because I care about the children.
But the idea that politicians want to regulate big tech for our safety is just, it might be true to them, but in practice, in reality, it's so broken.
Yeah.
Like we've brought it up time and time again. But why do things like the court hearing around the Twitter files and the Facebook files and the Biden administration going into YouTube and telling them what they could and couldn't have on the platform and flagging everything that mentioned the words COVID-19 with potential misinformation or misinformation, deleting posts, shutting down accounts, local businesses affected, people every day affected, all at effectively the command of the state. And that was far reaching, that was global and from the administration in the US. So this idea that governments are going to be able to effectively and benevolently sort of enforce these safety precautions, we know that's not true.
Yeah.
We don't even have to be like, well, remember during World War I and II. No, remember 3 years ago. 3 years ago, we saw exactly this. And whistleblowers were being persecuted. People were fleeing the country for leaking documents. Like this whole thing is just so fresh in the memories of what seems to be only a few people.
Yeah, and I think too, people keep saying, yeah, but hold on, you can't like attribute sinister motives to governments everywhere, all around the world. And like, okay, sure. Most governments probably aren't thinking of themselves as, global, like evil villains, trying to master, the plebs. But the reality, I suppose, is what we started with in this conversation right at the beginning about good intentions and the road to hell being paved with them.
Yeah.
A lot of people really do think that when they get into these positions of power and responsibility and authority, that they are doing, the good thing, the best thing for the society they are apparently supposed to be serving. I was just thinking, though, a moment ago about Pavel Durov, the founder of Telegram.
I don't know his whole story.
Yeah, I mean, Telegram.
He's in France, eh?
Yeah, well, he was arrested last year in France.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I mean, I've no doubt that Telegram has been, a vehicle for all kinds of illicit, criminal kind of activities, some really horrible stuff. But the fact is that it's also used by a lot of people to legitimately communicate with each other around the world. And I think because of its encryption, right, encryption, it's just almost uncrackable. Like you just can't, can't hack it.
Wow.
And so that was infuriating the French authorities and the European authorities, basically. So they arrested him. It's still unclear as to like exactly why they did, but it was because he wasn't really cooperating to a sufficient level.
They were trying to get some sort of admission out of him, I think, was one of the stories at the time, eh?
Yeah. And we saw the same sort of attempts, at least in terms of like the public conversation in the UK when, people were out protesting, in some cases rioting in the summer in the UK last year. And Elon Musk, had contributed to the national conversation in the UK. And so people like Keir Starmer and others were saying, this guy has to be also brought to heel.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there were people literally saying we need to arrest Musk if he ever steps foot on UK soil. These are people in politics, people in
By association.
Well, that was the previous
that was
summer.
after.
I mean, there's a whole range of things that have happened since then. But I think governments are beginning to show their hands on this issue. Yeah. I think they really do want to control these major tech companies. And I'm not saying that these major tech companies should have free reign, do whatever they want.
Totally, no one's saying that.
Our national sovereignty could actually be very seriously threatened, and in some cases probably has been.
Yeah.
Well, there's examples of how these tech companies can influence elections.
Yeah.
Hugely, right?
Sure.
Yeah. But it's not as sinister as the government's. I think in the America example, for example, it was like people were just paying for advertising space.
Yeah.
It's as innocuous as that, but it does have a real effect.
And there's a lot of naivety, not just on the part of the public that use these services, but actually some of those who run these companies. I genuinely think that even though some of them are incredibly smart IQ-wise, that there are some tech leaders who really have a very naive view, actually, of what their products are going to do to people. And so I get it from that perspective. They don't always understand.
Okay, I was thinking about this morning, and I want to hear you guys' thoughts. There's no job like being a politician where people can discredit you so openly and publicly, and it's like acceptable. I was thinking about Hipkins, and everyone's like, hey, he's useless. Imagine if you were applying for a job, and as you're applying for the job, anyone and everyone who doesn't like you is just publicly being like, he would be the worst person at that job. Like, he's horrible, he's useless. Just imagine the
This is a public interview process,
yeah. It's like, if I was sitting in an interview room, patiently waiting for my turn. And then the guy comes out and is like, Nathan. And then as I stood up, everyone was like, oh, don't hire him. That would throw you out.
I mean,
yeah, you gotta have a lot.
I suppose when a sports team like a national sports side are doing really badly, they might come a little close to that. But no, you're right. Politicians they're in a category of their own, and
they sign up for it. And I'm not disagreeing with it. I think we should definitely be able to criticize them.
100%.
But it's like I probably have a little bit more respect for his ability to continually get out there and say stupid things. Yeah. I would stop. I would have not done the Q&A interview.
Or at least educate yourself after a while. Yeah.
I would definitely not. And then I was thinking, I would definitely stop saying, I'm not across that. I'm not across that.
It's like, what are you across?
Yeah.
Have you thought about anything?
That should be what they ask next. Okay, what's your warehouse?
Yeah,
today?
what do you want to talk about?
What do you want to
You
talk
actually dictate this. Like, you tell us what you want to talk about, and we can talk about what you want to talk about.
Running for Prime Minister, just having so many disparaging comments as you're applying for a job is pretty crazy.
You know what it is? And that's a very good point you make, because politics draws a very specific type of person into that realm.
Yeah.
And it's people who can, on the one hand, deal with that, but that doesn't always necessarily mean that they're the most intelligent, or that they're not, a little bit narcissistic.
It doesn't draw introverts.
No, 100%. And so that then does affect the policies that come out and the ideas that permeate the government.
Do you reckon there's people who, like, no matter how blunt and straight up with them, like, you saw one of them, you're like, you are the worst politician, and they walk away being like, reckon he likes it. I reckon
There's a chance.
Seymour
There's a
might be like
chance,
that.
there's hope.
Seymour.
I reckon, dude, David's definitely not like
You
that.
reckon?
David is very aware that people don't like him.
Oh, right.
But I think he's more principled. He's like, well,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just,
I think
I
he's-
just totally believe in what I'm trying to achieve for the
Yeah,
nation.
yeah.
So, like,
Yeah, if you're going to use the expression water off a duck's back, it would be for David Seymour.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And he gets it from
Oh,
everywhere.
everywhere.
But he continually shows up. He's more prepared than anyone else.
Dude, he's got his lines.
He,
Like
he has his principles down.
Yeah.
He's pretty consistent.
He's on
Like,
it.
he does well in media stand-ups.
Yeah.
You never hear him saying, well, I wasn't aware that my party announced
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
I wasn't aware.
I'm not across that.
I'm not across that.
Can I just say to the audience that we are not the front for the Axe Party?
Yeah.
Good point.
Despite what Nathan's just
I
been
wasn't talking
saying,
about
I mean, he can say it. That's cool.
David
As
I was
an
talking
individual,
about David as an
his
individual.
personality and
Sorry, Deputy Prime Minister Seymour.
Yeah,
No, no, no,
don't
first
cancel
name
us.
terms, okay.
yeah,
Let's keep it casual, you know.
the honourable.
Yeah, of course.
The
Hey,
honourable.
we're all Kiwis, right?
We're all Kiwis.
Or are we?
Why'd you look at me like that?
No, I wasn't.
Well, I'm sitting at a table
Mate.
with there's three of us here.
I was
Five
meaning-
passports represented, so I don't know about you guys, but I'm New Zealand first, man.
Oh.
I'm loyal.
How
Yeah,
many?
can I just say, no, I don't have a UK passport.
you didn't
I
get
talked. I have dual
Oh, wow.
citizenship in the sense that
You
I'm
can.
entitled to get my UK passport because I had one and it expired.
Oh.
But I don't currently have two passports. I only
I
have a
do.
New Zealand passport. Well,
They'll
I have
send, they'll
two
send you
very
if you get
active-
it. They'll send yours with an arrest warrant.
well,
over
I
there
thought
now,
about it. I
mate.
thought,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought recently, do I renew it? And then I thought, what if I was at an embassy, needing an embassy to bail
Yeah.
me out? Is the New Zealand High Commission going to do anything?
Well,
Probably
depends how you
not.
ended up there.
There's some of the people I've spoken to overseas that have been working in the space for some time now
Mm.
are genuinely at risk of being extradited if
Wow.
they go to certain countries that have extradition arrangements with China.
Flip.
So,
Are there a lot of countries that have that arrangement?
I mean, there are a number in Southeast Asia. There are, like Singapore, for instance, has an extradition arrangement with,
Really?
with China. Yeah.
Can't go back.
I know.
I love Singapore too.
No, well, what I'm saying is, at some point, if we continue to be this vocal about this, then these are the sorts of things that potentially, for
consider.
people who are activists in this space, who are speaking very publicly about this kind of thing, this is a question you have to ask. Now, if we ever got to that point, which I'm not, wanting, but if it happens, it happens. What do you do? And can you really rely on the New Zealand government to come in and rescue you if you're facing, say you're detained in a country that's sympathetic to China?
Well, there's a guy who's been in the Bali jail for 10 years.
Really?
I read his story recently.
Oh, what for?
He got caught for trafficking or smuggling,
Oh,
but he reckons he's set up, and he's from Whangarei. Him and his legal team have from day one denied that it was him set up.
Yeah.
But he's been in there for 10 years, got a 15-year sentence, and he's like, please bring me home. And they've just left him there for 10
Well,
years.
I mean, it was done
so
to
sad.
Canadian citizens, right? So when the Huawei family, the family behind Huawei, the
like the phones and
telecommunications
stuff. Yeah,
company,
Chinese
yeah.
company. Yep.
So when there was this major dispute around what they were doing, and so there was this whole tit for tat kind of like exchange, well, not exchange, but like retaliation, and so they detained Canadian citizens because one of the the members of the family that run Huawei had been investigated and detained in Canada. So right, so this starts happening, and then what do? Well, you can't rely on, I don't know, at the moment you can't rely on the New Zealand government to do the right thing in this regard. I don't believe that our government would stand up on principle,
Wow.
and even if there were trade ramifications, consequences to our to our economy, would they do that? I don't believe they would.
This sort of makes me think about this scenario that I was talking to someone about. So the world, pretty crazy. Imagine we go to World War III, right? We get called in to go fight this war, zero standards. So we're all allowed to go.
I'm
They're sending us all-
too old. They probably wouldn't.
No,
call
zero
me out.
standards. We're all
Anyway,
there. Or,
okay.
or maybe,
All right.
you're pinned down under enemy fire, right?
Okay.
And you're praying, oh, Lord, please help me. What's going to happen? Then over the hill, you see a flag crest. What flag do you hope to see?
New Zealand flag.
I know what you're going to say.
Well, you don't want a red flag with yellow stars. You want the red, white, and blue, man. You want that star spangled
USA.
Oh,
flag.
American
USA,
flag. Yeah.
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 Well, who's going to come help you from New Zealand?
I don't know, Winston Peters or something.
Winston's coming into fight.
No, but sorry, continue. Yeah, yeah.
Winston's
continue.
80. No, Winston's 79. No, Donald's 79.
He's in the 80s.
No, he's 80 now.
They're both in
Yeah.
their 80s.
Oh, actually,
Sorry, don't mean to
I'll
derail you.
I'll
But
No, but I'm saying, and this is the thing, because we're getting a lot of comments right
Oh,
now, like,
right.
oh, you guys should
Oh,
be backing
right.
China, not the US. But I'm like, mate, if we're in the situation, and exactly what you're talking about, Nick. If I was in a Chinese prison, would the New Zealand government be able to get me out? Probably not.
No.
If I was an American citizen, though,
heck yeah.
mate, probably be able to get out of there.
Well, yeah, they'd come in with the cavalry, you know, guns blazing.
It would be sweet.
B-2 bombers. Yeah.
That was such a bad Donald Trump accent. Eh?
Then do it again.
Nah, I can't. I'm gonna. Okay,
You gotta do that.
I was gonna say tell another story, but anyway, that's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
You and the point that you're making is, do you feel confident in the New Zealand government to come and get you? Not really.
Well, let me put it this way: if I could have a UK passport as well, would that help me?
And you're not sure whether it would. Yeah.
I'm not sure. Potentially,
Not at all.
potentially the UK might be finding its backbone over this issue, but
Interesting.
not yet. It hasn't happened yet.
Give it 6
There are still
months.
too many vested
Yeah.
interests in the UK. Too many people with business arrangements, deals going on with
so
China.
much funny money in the UK.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
and that's true here as well with New Zealand.
Yeah.
Of course, there's a lot of money invested in the US as well. But the point is that they are across both Republican and Democrat parties. They are pretty much in agreement that this is a major problem and they need to push back.
Do you think that New Zealand, in your kind of view of it and the hypothetical realm that New Zealand wouldn't wouldn't come and help you, do you think that's New Zealand not having a backbone, or would you say that's just New Zealand being a small country and not having the political, economic
I'm
leverage?
not expecting New Zealand to come in with our, I don't know, one crop duster
yeah,
and
yeah.
and a
we
tugboat,
have one of those
you know?
high-level secret. What do they call it? The NZSAS.
Secret intelligence.
Oh, hey,
secret
don't get me
services.
wrong.
The
Like,
SAS, the SAS.
don't get me wrong. There are great people in our armed services in our military, but my point is we don't have the capabilities to do anything. So they're just in no conceivable way. Like, is there any kind of way that they would literally come and
totally.
physically rescue me?
My question is:
You mean,
are you
would they have the
pointing to
political will?
are you pointing to a political issue of us not having a backbone, or of us physically not being capable, or both?
No. I think it just goes without saying that there's no physical way in which New Zealand could do anything about it.
So therefore, it's
Yeah, but the point is that we do have a lot of goodwill around the world
Right.
as a country that's often stood up for, at least in principle, human rights, right? And we have often attempted to try and be sort of peacemakers or to help facilitate those sort of processes in many parts of the world. We've sent a lot of peacekeepers. We've built up a lot of goodwill. My point is that we have respect from lots of international bodies, NGOs, and so on, and foreign governments. We could exercise a certain amount of diplomatic pressure in appealing, for China to release somebody who has been detained. But would our politicians really do as much as they could?
right.
And I don't believe
I've
they
changed my
would.
position.
Yeah.
I've changed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would trust the New Zealand government on the basis of why you've been detained.
Right, case by case kind of.
Yeah,
So the two examples given so far have been the flotilla people. They ignored MFAT and went anyway. So I actually don't think the government should have worked very hard to get them back.
Yeah. Well, fuck.
And then the guy in Bali who
Yeah, poor thing.
admittedly
Allegedly
was a
Framed.
mule. Now they could frame you, but I would hope that there'd be enough people who
Yeah.
know me and would advocate for my good person character.
Let's hope so.
Would you sign a reference for me?
No, but I mean,
back.
are you saying you think the New Zealand government would do that in a situation like involving China?
I think so. Yeah.
Where someone who's genuinely
justified.
detained, and they're not a criminal trying to traffic drugs or whatever. They're not someone who's completely disregarded. Well, maybe we do have to disregard advice. We might get MFAT telling us, you should probably be careful, blah blah blah. Like, really? Is that what it comes down to? Do they then just go, "Oh, too
but
bad"?
it's the expectation. Like, for example, the flotilla people. MFAT told them not to. They did it, and then they were like, "Oh, we're victims. They're not helping us." Boo-hoo. It's like,
And they're like, we hate the government. Can you help us out though?
yeah.
Can you come get us?
So, but I think what you're saying is like MFAT might tell us on grounds of principle, for example, don't do this China stuff. And on
they
principle,
wouldn't. They
wouldn't,
hypothetically.
hypothetically.
Yeah.
We'd say we'll go for it, but then we wouldn't be like, "Oh, come help us out." It's like,
The big thing that we're assuming here is that people will know that China's taken us.
Well, I think,
Dude.
no, but we're assuming that China would actually care whether people knew,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
I think that we're at a stage now where the Chinese government is not
Bang, bang,
concerned.
They don't care. Yeah.
No, because
Optics.
well, and this
Bang, bang.
brings us, if I may,
Please.
Take us
to the story, at least we think of the week,
brazen.
which is
Yeah.
the Chinese ambassador to New Zealand writing letters to MPs
Tell
from the
us.
New Zealand Parliament
Yep.
that attended a national celebration day, a patriotic sort of national celebration day that the Taiwan, representatives, because they don't,
Yeah.
of course,
They don't have an embassy.
an embassy here, but they have a sort of a representative, office in Wellington. They invited these New Zealand MPs to attend, and this is not the first time. It's happened, in fact, over many, many years. In fact, back in the early 2000s, all sorts of politicians attended this very type of celebration
Yeah.
at the Taiwan office in Wellington. And the difference is this year, the Chinese ambassador has written these letters to all these MPs that attended. First of all, how did they know that they attended the celebration? Because not all of them advertised it. So it's pretty obvious that someone who was there at the event was keeping tabs, was reporting back to the Chinese embassy
Or even
about
there was tabs being kept before they even got there.
Yeah, sure. Now, okay, right. This is what happens, right? This is this is cloak and dagger stuff that embassies of all sorts of countries, from all sorts of countries, would engage in all over the world. The problem is that New Zealand continues to pretend as if we're totally buddy with China over this stuff. Well, maybe because we are, and it's at the point now where they're telling us through the Chinese ambassador that this should not be happening. This is in fact almost not allowed. I'm trying to think of the term that was used by the ambassador in his letters.
He called it inappropriate.
He called it inappropriate, but I think the language went even further than that.
Well, he said that that they had an agreement to respect the one China narrative.
One China policy,
policy,
that New
yeah.
Zealand
Policy,
New Zealand holds to be
Yeah,
true,
yeah, exactly.
But the ambassador from China failed to acknowledge the distinction, which is for countries like New Zealand really important, which is that we say we acknowledge that China claims sovereignty over Taiwan. That doesn't mean we support it. We endorse it. We're not saying we endorse their claim, because that would mean if they invaded Taiwan,
that's fine.
we'd be like, sure, you're entitled to do that. We're not saying that. We agree.
Well, it kind of leaves us strategically ambiguous in terms of our
To be
position.
honest, I think it's
Taiwan.
I think it's a thoroughly dishonest type of policy to have.
Well, I think it was initiated by the US initially.
Yeah, but New Zealand's been in on this since 1972 when all this started opening up with China and the West began.
You're totally right.
Yeah. So the problem is that we are still playing this game, even though China now have moved on. They've advanced. They've got much more aggressive and much more serious about what this actually entails. Their claim over Taiwan.
Yeah.
Taiwan, an independent democracy. It is effectively independent. It is a democracy now. It has been for a good few decades. And they face an imminent invasion. It could happen anytime. And yet we're still wanting to play like these verbal games
So annoying.
with China around all this. Now, China's saying, no, you actually need now to be more substantive. You can't just play this game anymore. Because what we're saying is, what they're telling us is that your MPs shouldn't be even going to a celebration like this.
Don't tell us what to do.
Mate.
Yeah, sure.
Don't tell me what to
do. Some people will say, "Oh, well, it's just that they're just expressing themselves." Cool. Yeah, and they are.
China.
They are expressing themselves. The point is, what they're doing is they're actually beginning to really transcend those norms. They're violating those norms that have existed for a long time. And people say, "Oh, norms. Who cares? Norms, schnorms." The reality, again, is that this signifies a really significant shift in their approach. And I think we need to be paying more attention to this. I think our MPs are beginning to say something. Those, IPAC MPs have now started making statements about this. Laura McClure was very quick to come out very strongly and say, "No, you don't get to tell us what to do in our own country. You can choose to do certain things in your own country. That's ultimately on you. But if you try and mess with what we do, particularly our elected representatives, lecturing them as to who they can who can they can
threatening
meet
almost,
with.
a very subtle threat. Yeah,
Absolutely,
yeah.
it was a veiled threat.
Yeah.
Not a very well veiled threat actually. What do we do about this?
Well, this is why we put forward our foreign interest
There we
register,
go.
right?
Yeah.
And we've had really good cross-party support.
Yeah.
Which I think should communicate the gravity of the problem.
Yes.
The fact that people, regardless of their political leaning, would agree that actually we should push back more against some of this authoritarian global reaching that China's doing.
Mhm.
The UK tried to establish something similar,
Yep.
which you sort of brought to our attention, couldn't get it across the line. So we have an opportunity, and I know we love this line, but we actually have an opportunity to be a global leader in this sense.
Yeah, New Zealand really, honestly, could pave the way.
Yeah.
Could you explain what it is for listeners who aren't, as in what the foreign register is?
The Foreign Influence Register scheme, the FIRS, is basically recognizing that there are certain countries in this world that are engaging in destabilizing actions. So Russia, Iran, North Korea are obvious examples. In fact, as China is doing it. And the UK tried to get this bill, passed so that it would include China being in the top tier, like the enhanced tier, but which means giving them a status in British law which would acknowledge that China is doing stuff to destabilize liberal democracies. They attack dissidents that are, have fled abroad to places like the UK. There are all kinds of sort of surveillance and spying sort of activities that go on. Many countries engage in this, so that's not unique in itself. But it's becoming much more aggressive, and it's happening at a much much wider scale than previously. There is a definite kind of like shift in the geopolitical relationship. But unfortunately, in the UK, there were too many people in the House of Commons that were against this enhanced tier status for China. And so while they have the register in place, they haven't been able to get China recognized as the threat that it's actually now posing.
Yeah.
The difficulty, and we've talked about a few examples in our previous week's podcast, but the difficulty is that this actually really makes it toothless. Like this piece of legislation, the scheme, isn't really going to do what it was supposed to do. And because there are too many vested interests in the House of Commons, people who have relationships with business. And the point is that this register, this foreign influence register scheme, the first scheme, is designed to expose or get politicians declaring any kind of interest that they may have with countries like China.
It's transparency and accountability.
It is,
right?
absolutely. It's transparency and accountability. If they can't even do that, then we have no way of sort of really, like say in the UK, they have no way of holding those politicians more accountable because it's still under law, it's still considered legit.
Yeah.
It's still okay to have these kind of shady relationships. So we're trying to introduce that here. We're going to do that now. We're going to, be running a campaign to get a foreign influence register scheme passed into law here. The challenge is, are there political parties, first of all, that would support this? We know there are individuals. We know there are individual MPs. There are the IPAC MPs, so Interparliamentary Alliance on China. Basically, it's like a China monitoring network around the world of parliamentarians and government representatives who recognize the risk that China poses.
Those individuals wouldn't be able to fly through China, eh?
No, they probably can, most of them.
Yeah.
Especially as government.
Yeah, right.
As government representatives,
Okay.
or as parliamentarians. But the difficulty is that those who are no longer in government are not so safe.
Yeah.
So, there are former MPs, even when they were in government, they were subject to cyber attacks, to really intense surveillance. Like we had that with Simon O'Connor, a National MP, Louisa Wall, Labour MP, both IPAC members.
Yeah, wow.
Both involved in looking at this question of what was going on with China. And then they, along with an academic, Anne-Marie Brady from Canterbury University, were, it turns out, subject to surveillance and cyber attacks. And then our government took like a year or more to then tell them that it had happened to them.
Wow.
So,
It's
and the FBI, it was the FBI that had actually exposed us.
Yeah.
So they were the ones who managed to pass on the intel, and then
Mate, you're
our
not
own
helping-
intelligence services.
You're not helping our case for all those anti-America, pro-China
You know,
comments.
if people want to believe, I mean, look, listen, I'm not going to defend America on everything that they've ever done overseas. They have a clear record of making some terrible, terrible decisions, especially in Central America and, like South America. There have been periods that are really shameful in terms of American
history.
But and I wouldn't say that they still don't make some of those mistakes now. There are people who've made bad decisions in terms of their foreign affairs. But let me clarify and say that on balance, though, I would still far prefer dealing with the US. And by dealing with the US, I don't mean that we just roll over and do whatever the Americans say as well. You know, like it's like they either see us as at a human level as equals because they have a political philosophy which says that, you know, human beings universally should be recognized as, you know, equal in that sense. Or they don't. Now, from my experience, that still continues to be the prevailing view in American society and most of American politics. That is not the case with China. We know that.
And I think you made a really good point the other day. I think it was you were replying to someone in the comment section. Who are we going to go with? The ones who set up a public event and a public campaign and said, hey, we're setting up a FBI office here in Wellington, and did a press conference and everything, or the ambassador who secretly sends surveillance letters to our MPs and says, don't you dare go to another... Well, sorry. He didn't
even
say...
secretly. It was very public.
But
He
they
didn't
set up
say, don't you dare.
100 secret police stations.
Also set up 100 secret police stations. So it's like... those two are very different,
and again,
substantially different.
Again, I'm not expecting a world where countries like the US or China don't do surveillance. They don't do, you know, it doesn't mean they should legally or morally. Maybe sometimes there's justification for these sorts of things. Who knows? But I guess the point is that when they start flagrantly, you know, publicly trying to push elected representatives of foreign governments around, and they do this in order to intimidate, especially over an issue like Taiwan. I mean, Taiwan, like I said, it's an independent democracy
Leave them alone.
that very few countries anymore recognize. And yet people know in principle that we shouldn't be allowing, we shouldn't just be agreeing and saying, yeah, sure, China can do what they want.
Yeah, exactly.
So...
No, it's a great point. It's a very good point. Well, yeah, the issue has been getting crazier and crazier. The NZSA's report, then we had the NZSA has come out about local elections. Now we've got this letter.
Yeah. If our own intelligence service says that China is now the number one concern, then that should count for something.
The number one comment that we keep getting is, you should be more concerned about the US and Israel. I'm like, no, literally, our foreign interference specialists, our Secret Service specialists are telling us it's China.
Yeah, if our own intelligence service says that, then we should give that some credence. And then, of course, it is not just that. It's all the cases of people that we've, you know, some of them we've got to know quite well, who are of Chinese origin themselves, who've come to New Zealand and are trying to live life in this democracy, and are now being harassed for expressing pro-democratic, you know, anti-authoritarian sentiment. Like, you can't do that in New Zealand. Where can you do it? Right? And that's the problem. That's what we've begun to see, is that all around the world, other liberal democracies very similar to New Zealand are having these same problems occurring. There is an authoritarian government, and it's flexing its muscle all over the globe. That's the problem. So we need to see this as being something not just that we're trying to do here in one little corner of of the world, but actually that we're part of a more global network or global movement of people who are equally concerned and are seeing the same problems. We've got to be able to share in this sort of as an approach, as a network approach.
There's this quote that says, well, the old adage that says, eternal vigilance is the price of freedom.
That's right. Yep.
And again, people say, well, it's just China concerned about Chinese citizens. No, eternal vigilance is the price of freedom, because ideas don't know any borders. The idea of communism or the idea of authoritarianism or authoritarianism, these ideas don't know borders. And so to the extent that these people come here to New Zealand and are able to call them out is good. It is good that people can come to a liberal democracy and say, no, the authoritarian regime in Tehran or in Beijing or what's happening in Russia, in Moscow, it is good that they can come here and say these things, not only for them, but also for the people here in New Zealand, because we enjoy this liberal democracy. And if we are not vigilant, if we're not exposed to what's happening with the alternative of liberal democracy, because we've just grown up with this and we're taking it for granted, and it's like, oh, well, democracy is just this. It is good that they can speak about this, because again, ideas don't know borders, and we need to be able to talk about these things.
I mean, I know we don't in general talk about safe spaces, and in that we don't think we need them in terms of university campuses and that kind of stuff. But in one sense, New Zealand is that safe space, and so are other liberal democracies. It should be a place in which you can come and express, your views and not be targeted, not
against
discriminated
authoritarianism.
against. So, if we can't do that, then what do we have left?
Yeah. If we can't do it, who's going to do it?
Yeah.
Look, we've been going for a little while, but I want to get something off my chest before we end, and I would love your guys' thoughts on it. Something I've heard. Nick's getting ready. He's bracing himself.
Bracing myself.
I'm excited.
So we talk a lot about liberal democracy, civil liberties, freedom, these sorts of things. A lot of people have come and said, both positively and negatively, oh, it's very American. Like these ideas of like liberty and freedom. Why is it so American? And it just annoys me that America seems to have this monopoly in people's minds on freedom, liberty. I understand why, but then I'm like, can we not appreciate those things here in New Zealand as well? Or is there a more Kiwiana vocabulary we can apply to these things that would be better for people? But then I'm like, but we're just calling it what it is. Like we believe in freedom, democracy, liberty. Why do you turn off because you think that's too American? What's wrong with freedom, liberty, and democracy? Does that make sense? Why does America seem to have
the problem is the assumption implicit in their statement, right? That somehow America or American things are bad by default. That America is a dirty word. If they think that, like, I don't disagree. There are things like that America has done that are wrong, very wrong in some cases. The point is, who says we have to define ourselves by America? America's sort of past or history. Why does America have to be the standard for anything, good or bad?
Yeah.
Why can't we talk about these concepts independently of a country and its history?
Which is exactly my
while making reference to like when it's worked and when it hasn't worked in any country, right? So I'm not ashamed. I wouldn't be ashamed in one sense to be associated with America on the good things.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be associated with the bad things, but I don't ultimately say
you don't write off the whole idea.
Yeah, I don't say because it's American, it's automatically bad or it's automatically good. Why is it American?
Like I understand culturally why
because they've celebrated these ideas.
It's a country founded on those principles and ideas. Yeah.
They haven't always upheld them consistently, and there have been some glaring examples of that. But no country has ever really consistently upheld their ideals, and ever done this perfectly either. They continue to shout it out, and that's why people cringe a bit in other countries, because they're like, they're the Americans are going on about it again, freedom and liberty for all. Sure, cool. But the point is, does the idea still make sense?
Yeah.
Is it still right? Yeah.
That's where I would hope our conversation would be, right? You see the comments, you and me we're deep diving.
Yeah. On the
Do you get annoyed when you read those?
No, I love it. It makes me laugh. I love hate comments. Send more.
You love them. Send more, you reckon?
No, send love as well. But anyway, sorry, you were going to say.
No, that was my question, my gripe, because I've been
identity. It's an identity politics paradigm, right?
Yeah.
It's like let's associate it with a person or a thing, which we usually do anyway, because we try to think of real examples in life to make sense of principles. Yes. But the point is, you can't just go, oh well, let's just write it off because it's associated with America. Like,
I fully agree. But how would you guys differentiate the American freedom, with what we've inherited from the British? Because I look at the British system, the British system, and I think that is an awesome system that we've inherited.
Yeah, I mean
the Westminster system. We're not a constitutional republic. We're a democracy, and I think we have much to thank the Brits for. How would you differentiate the American freedom? I don't have an answer for this. The American freedom and the British.
Nathan?
Well, one is like iOS 1 and the other one is iOS 2, So the British is the original, and then the Americans obviously built on top of that.
Oh, yeah.
But sort of like...
Both have continued to evolve though, right?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
they've been improved upon.
Yeah.
Clarifications have been added and so on.
Yeah.
I think that there is a more... it's like there's definitely a more individual centric approach with
In
the
the
US Constitution that doesn't always express itself in the British, kind of collective constitution that British law makes up.
Yeah.
But I would say that largely they come from the same
Spirit.
the same spirit, the same sort of origin, and the reality is that the British were influenced by French thinkers like Montesquieu, a guy in the 1700s who wrote extensively on political philosophy. The Americans were influenced also by Alexis de Tocqueville, a French political thinker who toured the US and came back with ideas, and then those ideas found their way back to the US, and people were like, oh, he's summarized it quite well. You get influences from all over the place and from various periods in history that have shaped British and American thinking on this issue. And you don't, of course, have one school of thought in either country either, right? You have a range of philosophical views traditionally in both America and Britain. So,
because I think what we're seeing increasingly with the turmoil and the chaos is that regardless of whether you have a constitution that says this is the law, this is how you ought to run things, or whether you have kind of a democracy in the UK, your freedom is only as functional as the people who are in the system. I think like true freedom is in the hearts of the men and women who run the government. So in my head, I'm like, you can have a constitution, but if your Congress and your Senate and your public servants, if they've got no care for it, it doesn't actually matter.
Yeah, because they come from the populace, right? They are people drawn from all over that country, and they come and represent the country. But if they and the public at large don't really have that ethos ingrained in them, generationally it's kind of eroded and it's been replaced by other kind of philosophical influences.
Exactly.
We're stuffed.
And so, so in my head, I'm like, the issue lies in the culture first. Yeah. I think. I don't know, you guys can disagree. I think the issue with threats to freedom initially, other than China and things, initially starts in the culture. Yep. And then it feeds into our political spectrum. So we need to address
There's one historical anecdote that I think helps summarize a lot of what has shaped the West in terms of this political thought. And it was the guy I mentioned before, Montesquieu. He was actually Baron de Montesquieu, right? A wealthy aristocrat in France before the French Revolution. Yeah. And he had every advantage, every kind of privilege. Actually came from a really nice family too, like parents that actually cared about him. They didn't just kind of send him off to be educated somewhere else. Anyway, his dad actually made a choice when he was a boy. He said to his son, Baron Montesquieu, said, I'm going to let you spend time living with a peasant family on their estate. And the reason behind it was, he said, because if you do this, you will understand that the poor are your brothers too.
Wow.
Now, that sounds like a somewhat elitist, kind of like lofty, idealistic kind of way of thinking. But it genuinely had an impact on people like Montesquieu, because that concept, actually, that if it hadn't been for just the accident of birth, I would be in the same situation as these people. Yeah. That belief, like that, we really aren't any different in the sense of who we are as human beings. But yes, our situations can shape us and all that kind of thing. That feeds into this political philosophy. If we can recognize that, yes, the poor are our brothers too, then we see them as equals politically. Yep, materially they may not have the advantages that some of us have, and so on, and others may not have the same education or the access to education, and so on and so on. But the point is that we know that given opportunity or given some chance to participate, that these people are still valid. They're still equal in the eyes of the law, and they should be, valid in the or equal in the eyes of the law. To me,
100%,
it comes back to simple stories like that, because actually, that's those simple stories that shape complex political philosophy.
It's the stories that the culture holds.
You can't reduce them entirely to these stories,
totally.
but they play a major role.
That's when we get into real trouble, when we can't walk back to those simple stories, to those first principles, when we can't get back to somewhere where
100%
people feel politically equal in their understanding as well as just in their ability to exercise that right. So it's great. That's really
Fantastic.
And like Montesquieu had a major impact on the founders of the United States.
Yeah, well,
right.
interesting. I
Major
didn't know
impact.
that.
So these things I think just shouldn't be overlooked.
The only good French philosopher.
No, I think there are a few.
You
There are a
hate
few.
French, eh? Why you wasn't
I
looking at
mean-
French?
Yes.
Well, political philosophers. There were some pretty switched on guys.
Yeah. The rest, terrible. Only bad
Uh,
philosophers out of France.
I'm not gonna disagree that there are some
Evil.
like very eloquent but like ridiculous ideas that expressed by some French philosophers. Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, it's been a real journey. It's been emotional.
Yeah.
We covered under 16s, China,
China.
Arian,
Big tech, everything.
as your colloquially known,
Oh, you guys are so
Um,
kind.
mate. Good job today. I felt like
That would
Thank you.
suggest
I-
would suggest more than one person says that.
Quillo.
It's just you really that says that.
we know who says it.
Oh
We know
yeah.
who says it.
Okay.
Great job today contributing.
Thank you. No, again, I'm not a victim.
Huge shift,
Never have been, never will be.
a huge shift in the energy that you bring.
Thank you. I started off with,
Did you smile
with
today?
hate. I think I did.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
I had to tell Arian to smile at people were filming at uni the other day.
I was scaring them.
He
Hello.
keeps saying, "Hey, can I talk to you?"
That's
"Mate,
not-
do a smile."
Because the eyebrows give you a very thoughtful, very serious.
Really? They're
kind
not
of-
threatening?
No, they're very dignified. And
Yeah, I think I yeah.
Yeah.
Do you,
There was
do you
strength.
shape them?
I don't shape them. I tidy them.
I like them.
Shaping them. I wouldn't say that. Yeah, I don't shape them, but
You shape them yourself?
No, I get my mum to do it for
Nice.
me. That is
Transparency.
I shouldn't have said
Wow.
that, but so if you made it this far, then
Arian's mum, you're doing a great
Oh,
job.
she does
Look,
look
next week
fantastic.
we're gonna
Do you reckon
we're gonna voluntarily submit to this cross examination around our appearance. All right,
Who, me and you?
you and me. Yeah,
Mate, I'm maybe I
Oh,
got
you guys,
nothing to hide.
sweet.
No, Arian, great job.
no,
today.
thank you,
Proud of
everyone.
you, mate.
Everyone did
You've
very
done a-
well.
you've done an amazing job.
Thank you. Again, not a victim.
And just lining you up for the slow outro. So
Yes,
you
thank
know
you
the,
so much.
You know the moves.
I know we all
Take
know
us
the drill.
away, buddy.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. I think if you made it this far, we do want to express our gratitude because that's time you put in, and I know it was worth it. So thank you. We started off talking about good intentions being the path to hell. There is a better path you can take, so think about that. And think
A bit
about
of path to hell.
No, a better path to not hell,
Not hell.
not hell.
Clarify.
a good,
Yeah,
a
no,
better,
really good.
a better
How do
place.
you not go to hell? Okay,
We won't get into that.
That's a big one. For
Yeah,
them.
yeah. But think about it. I think it's good. And sign up to our mailing list. There's a lot of good stuff that comes in through there. Thank you all for listening or watching.
Subscribe to our updates.
Subscribe to our updates on our website.
Click
Yeah,
subscribe.